I'm just going to talk a little bit about the subject of sin. Now, we know that God created us. He created everything. And when he created everything, he said that it was good. And a lot of the time we are good. God doesn't make mistakes. But we do things wrong. Because we have to live in this world with lots of other people, and we kind of bump into each other and we do the wrong things sometimes. It's hard to be loving all the time. Obviously, we have the example of Christ, who knew how to love everybody perfectly. And he gave us lots of help with that. He gave us, obviously, the Beatitudes, and he gave us lots of advice, lots of stories that helped us to be loving. And if we read the Bible, we can understand what he wanted us to do. But the reality is that, we have these times where we aren't always loving to each other. There are times when, because of pride, we tell lies. There are times when we perhaps, take things that belong to other people in small ways. Some people do it in big ways. There's lots of different ways that we can perhaps let God down in that way. Of course, God continues to love us. And if we think about this on a very human level, we think about our relationship with our own children. It's a lifelong journey, trying to help our children to understand the difference between right and wrong. And we love our children, we love them, without limits. But they often do things wrong, don't they? And we want to have a relationship with our children that is such that they know the difference between right and wrong. But we still love them when they do go wrong. But we need to be able to give them that freedom. And God does give us that freedom in the way we live our lives. He doesn't have us like robots where we just follow his code. It's not that easy. No, he trusts us enough to make our own decisions, our own choices, and carry on with our lives. And often we get it wrong. And that's obviously why we end up in a state of being in the state of sin, I suppose we call it, or we get in a state where we know we've done something wrong, and it gives us that dis-ease and that feeling of unhappiness. Sin often leads to unhappiness. So if we're feeling unhappy, often the cause will be either we have done something wrong or somebody else has done something wrong to us, if we're experiencing unhappiness. Sometimes things happen to us that are really sad and they're nobody's fault, and they make us say and do the wrong thing. So it's very complex. But whatever the reasons behind it, we often do the wrong thing. And that's why we need the sacrament of reconciliation, because it's very hard to live our lives in the way that Christ would want us to live it without experiencing that, being in a state of sin at some time or other. So we have the sacrament of reconciliation. So it's not about understanding sin and what it is. We know we're going to be at times in a state of sin. It's what we do about it. So it's important that we have times in our lives where we look at our lives and say, what's really not going wrong? For example, me personally at the moment, I don't have a lot of pressures on me. I haven't got young children anymore, but I look after my mum. She's very old now, and she's got a bit of dementia, and it's hard. And the sin that I start falling into a lot is that I get very frustrated. And I realise that underneath it all, it's because she's not the lady she used to be, with the capabilities she used to be. And that's upsetting me, and that's what's at the root of my sin. But being able to take that to the sacrament of reconciliation and being freed from it on a regular basis is what helps me to deal with that sin. So we are going to do things wrong. We are going to have that experience of unhappiness because we're doing things wrong. But it's what we do about it. We try not to continue in that state. We try to heal ourselves by asking for that forgiveness of God, which we can be totally sure of. We know that he will always be ready to offer us that forgiveness. So it's something that is something we can solve. We can bring it to the Lord in the sacrament of reconciliation, and regain that freedom from it and that feeling that we are totally loved and forgiven. So here are the questions.